All right. Well, here we are again. Another book, another live Q&A. Mike Lynch over there at his home office, office. Where are you?
This is the work office. I'm in Burlington.
And he has generously carved out some time from his busy schedule to hang with us and shepherd these questions as he's done in the past. I'm sitting here in my studio signing book plates for the many adoring fans who would like sent out to them. Book is out on the 19th. Everything reminds me of something, and you can pre-order it now. It just helps. Mike, I'll ask for your thoughts, and then we'll launch into these questions.
Sure. Yes. I want to reiterate, it does help to pre-order. It kind of lets Amazon and other places know how big this book's going to be when it actually comes out. So we don't have what we ran into last time, which is you went on Tucker and you talked about the book, and we didn't have enough for all the adoring fans. So go out, pre-order it now so that we have plenty for everybody who's too lazy to pre-order.
And you have a slate of questions in front of you that people submitted. We'll also take some in real time as well, correct?
Absolutely. And then we can just kind of talk about the book in general. I know you like statistics, Adam. So I was looking at the word count. We actually 78,827 words of mirth for the fans right here. I have
some were connecting words like the and at, but
sure.
With humor twist in them.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we can dive right into questions. We can talk about the genesis of the book. We can talk about the alternative title, which we didn't end up with. Do you want to have a little banter first?
Yeah, let's do a little banter first.
All right. So yeah, we were talking. This book was originally called "Ask an Asshole," but we decided that maybe that might not get as much play on the terrestrial radio and the Fox News and things like that. So it is now what it is. I don't know if everybody knew
that. Yeah, you always kind of, I don't know, so put together a title like Crank Anchors were called Crank Puppets, and That 70s Show was just called That 70s Show because they couldn't think of a title. You know, right. It was originally, they were going to call it like Teenage Wasteland or something. And there was a bunch of, and then after 9 months of pre-production and calling it That 70s Show, then it became That 70s Show. So it's like, I don't know, it's like getting a dog from the pound and you go, I'll call it Bowser for the first 6 months, but after that, we're going to change. But after a certain point, the dog turned into Bowser. And so you do that with the book sometimes too. But I always had this in the back of my head that everything reminds me of something because it's just something I said at some point, and not that everything sticks, but this one kind of stuck with me. And it is kind of, it describes my thought process and also describes sort of how we did the book. People asked questions and I heard the question and then it reminded me of something. And then I spoke to it.
It's an interesting book. It's a lot different than the ones we've done in the past where it's almost like attempting to do improv in book form, which I don't know that anyone other than you could really attempt.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment. Yeah. We would, Mike would field these questions sometimes from celebrities like Judd Apatow, Ray Romano, Jay Leno, and the like. And then mostly just from books fans, people with questions all over the country and all over the world. And they would just ask questions about relationships or about mechanics or about a career or something. Mike would ask them to me while I was in one of my very long commutes in my car, and I would think about it like, what does this remind me of? Where are we going to go with this? It's not something usually you write a book where I want to talk about this and I want to talk about that. We didn't really have a choice. You guys sort of set the agenda for that. So it was like a kind of experiment in literature improv, which is just not something we've seen before.
Yeah, and what we ended up doing was kind of, the questions were wide ranging, and we ended up kind of categorizing them. And actually, we can let people know what the chapters are. So there's a chapter on car questions, which we call autocorrect. There's a health and wellness chapter called "We're all going to health in a bucket, but at least I'm enjoying the ride," and I hope people get that reference. Do you get it, Adam, or do you remember where we got that from?
Uh, we're all going to health in a bucket, at least enjoying a ride. I mean, the reference?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay, I was hoping our fans would. So
Oh,
we'll
no, I
Grateful
think
Dead
they'll get
reference.
it. I'm semi-insulted that you're asking me.
Uh,
It makes me wonder if there's something more than further than the Grateful Dead.
no, I just wasn't
But
sure because going to hell in a bucket but the enjoying the ride part, I just wanted to make sure. Anyway, moving on.
that's a Grateful Dead thing. Like, I don't like the Grateful Dead. I'm not like you getting all beaked up on poppers and downers and uppers and taking my shirt off and dancing to Fish all day instead of tending to my family. But I still get the reference.
Then we have relationship. That's our relationship questions. Social distortion.
Don't
That's
get,
probably
but keep going. Yeah.
don't be a tool. Alcoa presents I Make the Call. That's our sports questions. If it doesn't fit, I must answer it. That's kind of our catch-all. Then we have deep shit, which is some philosophical questions. Pop Goes the Culture is our mass media one. Black Labs Matter. That's our pets question. Taking off the kids' gloves is about kids, and get a job and fight to keep it.
So
That's
you
our
have
career
some
questions.
pre-sampled questions, and I guess basically this is going to be an extension of the process of writing this book.
Yeah.
People, we collaborate, and by the way, it's not Mike just sitting around waiting for me to talk. Someone would throw a thing out, and I would start kind of ruminating, and it was sort of in a weird way, like writing a song with another musician. I was sort of having some lyric in my head, but I didn't have the hook or the melody or something, and I was kind of things out. And then Mike would pick up his bass and kind of jam along, trying to find the hook or the bridge or the something, and we would eventually go somewhere. And I found I was kind of interested that some of the stuff we did, we really went to some interesting places that I didn't really have. I didn't know I had thoughts on certain things before we started to drill down on them a little bit.
Yeah, it was. It was like the aforementioned Grateful Dead. It was kind of a jam session. It was a lot of fun to write this book. So why don't we jump into
all right.
one question from one of the fans who you're signing a book plate for right now. Warren from South Woodsley, Ontario, Canada asks, as a New York Times bestseller, have you ever had a teacher reach out in amazement considering that you couldn't read under their tutelage? I look forward to adding this to my collection of your literary works.
No, the best I had was I ran into Mr. Bernal at the Ice House a year ago, maybe more, and he was talking about me being one of his students, and came by in studio, I think, and sat in for a little bit and regaled us with some old stories of Adam back in the day. But no, I'll tell you, there's something I haven't really. Something I'm always kind of curious about in life is no old teacher ever comes back and says, "Hey, I'm curious," or "I'm sorry," or "explain this." Nobody really does. No one does it about fucking COVID. Everything I fucking said that I was pilloried for, I turned out to be right. No one ever circles back and goes, the LA Unified School District doesn't send me a nicely worded. Maybe the Ace Man was riding schools. Maybe we should have left them open. Nobody really goes back, and kind of has a commensurate amount of interest in things that are kind of inherently interesting. And I'm always kind of curious about that. Like Jay Leno's in the book, and Jay Leno and I are pretty good friends about now. And he kind of likes this story now. But and the first time I did the Tonight Show, I went up to him and I said, last time I saw you, I was putting stucco on your neighbor's house, and I'd come talk to you in the garage, and I was 23, and you're telling me to go to Deli Smoker to stand up, and now here we are, and I'm the guest on the Tonight Show, and you're hosting the Tonight Show." And he was like, "Yeah, there you go." And you're like, and I was like, I never know if they don't believe you or it just doesn't strike that chord. I would be but I've also kind of found like I played 7 years of Pop Warner football spread out over the same. And I probably had 150 teammates over the course of those years, and we were sort of thick as thieves, and we hung together, and we went to battle together, and so on and so forth. And at some point, I became a name, and I was on TV, and people knew who I was, and all that. I've never had any of them reach out to me or try to get hold of me or ask me what was up. I mean, there's a couple scattered friends from high school and old high school teammates and stuff like that. But I would say that about my immediate family. They didn't really try to reach out and hang out, or just kind of a thing I'm interested. They never, my immediate family never went like, "Geez, you got a bunch of cool cars. Am I going to come by and check them out?" Or like something, or it's just some guy I was on the East Valley Trojans with when I was a Mighty Mite. It was like, Carolla, same guy. Holy like, "Hey man, what's up? I run I distribute roofing materials now in Sunland, but what are you up to? Like, you want to buy me a burrito?" Like, it's weird how little of that there is.
Which teacher do you think would be most surprised by your success at 6 times writing a book?
Well, there was Miss Commissar, who was old, so she's probably gone now. She was the one who told me that all the girls loved me. I was like, strike one. But thought I was beaten by my parents, which I was.
Well, emotionally. I mean, maybe not
Yeah,
physically, but.
well, I was beaten down emotionally. But there was, there was, God, I had so many horrible, horrible teachers, and I was such a crap student that I would assume all of them would be wildly surprised because turned in a term paper. I would say Mr. Gregory, who famously failed me from driver's ed because I didn't turn in a term paper on seatbelt tags or parallel parking or something, and then failed me because of that, because I couldn't cobble together 10, turn them in, would probably be most surprised that not only was I a celebrated author, but won the Toyota Celebrity Grand Prix 2 times running. So I think Mr. Gregory would lift the eyebrow the highest.
So if Mr. Gregory is still alive, someone needs to get him a copy of this book and highlight the entire first chapter, which is autocorrect, and get it to him and shove it in his face. And if he's dead, then put it on his grave.
Please.
So let's jump to one of the live questions from somebody who's streaming this right now. Dan is asking, who would you choose to remake The Man Show in 2022?
Never thought about it. I think, and pardon me, because I don't have a strong grasp of the young comedians out there. Norman is a funny young comedian who's not very politically correct, so that would probably be good. Him and Andrew Schultz. I'll just pick a couple of young comedians that I think are funny and kind of buck the system.
Okay. So Cassidy in Minnesota wants to know, what's been a highlight or pinch me moment in your career?
I probably had a couple. I usually don't, dwell on them too much. The story of Henry Winkler being a fan when I was in on radio for like 10 minutes was pretty good. The one where Axl Rose saw me and said, I thought he'd look totally different. Kind of interesting thing because Henry and Rose were two guys that were pretty damn big stars when I was not a star. I think I was at a party. I haven't really talked about this, but I was at a party like a year and a half ago and ran into Jamie Foxx, and he kept jumping up and down, going, the one and only Adam Carolla, the one and only. But I feel like he does that with his gardener and his pool man, too. People feel as that was kind of a number. I respect that guy's work so much.
Yeah.
There's weird little moments like having your name come up as a question on Jeopardy or something like that are more quieter, stranger celebrity moments. People are guessing, or at least in my case, they probably didn't guess it was me. But, you're doing, someone guessed it's you and the Masked Singer, someone guessed it's you and Jeopardy, or some version of that. Those are kind of the weirder, more interesting moments.
So maybe it's Jamie Foxx. Maybe the answer's already come up. But Shireen in Virginia wants to know if there's anyone you haven't interviewed yet that you're hoping to be able to one day.
I would like to talk to Elon Musk, and I feel like it's overdue, and it should be done. So a lot of these people, I interviewed everybody when I was doing Loveline, for instance, but Elon Musk didn't really exist when I was doing Loveline, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
He did get featured on 60 Minutes 15 years ago or 20 years ago. I'm trying to think. There was like a Boy Genius segment on Elon Musk, I think, many years ago on 60 Minutes, but he wasn't really a thing. So I would say the two people that you need to talk to on it, at some point we'll make it happen. Quentin Tarantino and Elon Musk.
Now, would you get high with Elon like Joe Rogan did?
Yes. Anything he wanted. I hope he gets me pregnant, honestly. Financially, not sexually, but.
Sure. Twins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what he does.
Yeah. He does everything twice as well as everybody else.
I know.
Okay. Karen in Dunedin, Florida. A little bit of a longer question. How much fraud do you think is in California's elections? In June, Newsom allegedly got 59% of the vote to win the primary. How much of that do you think comes from ballot drop boxes, mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting, illegals voting, dead people, etc., not to mention really dumb voters? California seems to have no election integrity. In Florida, DeSantis created the Office of Election Crimes and Security, staffed it with law enforcement officers to investigate voter fraud and crime. So
that's because he's a dictator. So I have a couple things about elections, and the answer is I don't really know, but I will say this. I kind of feel about elections like sort of I feel about everything else, which is there's something called Election Day, and then you just go out and you produce ID and you vote, and that's your window. We just have Election Day. And the drop boxes or the ballot harvesting and even most of the mail-in stuff, save, I don't know, a disabled person or someone overseas, in the French Foreign Legion or something wants to mail it in. I mean, we were talking about, there's COVID and there's disabled people and there's seniors who how many people do you know who want to vote who are prevented from voting? If I said, we're going to vote Tuesday between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. 5 weeks from now, let's just say you really want to vote, but you're prevented from voting because of COVID, or you don't want to leave the house, or what if I just said, I got you a skybox at Dodger Stadium for when the Cubs come in town. It's going to be in 7 weeks. Do you think you'd find your way to the stadium? I bet you could. You know what I mean? And then there's all these weird ancillary things. Like they do this thing where it's like, there's long lines and they made laws in Atlanta about handing food and water. Like, how much food do you need to eat? Like, you ever been waiting in line to vote and went, I could go for some spaghetti about now or fish sticks or something? You know, I mean, let me just say this. Isn't your water you? Like, I went on a hour-and-a-half hike in the Santa Monica Hills yesterday. I brought water because I wanted to drink water. I didn't stop halfway the trail and go, what the fuck? Where's the water? There is no water. It's my water. I have a container. It's usually in your car. It's just weird. And, you know, don't get me started on ID. For the love of Christ. Everyone in America, if you do not have an ID, you're no longer participating in what we call a civilization. You physically cannot participate in this country minus an ID if you're older than 16 years old. So I don't know what everything is. My feeling is election day, give everyone ample notice, carve out some very small group of disabled people, but disabled people still have the handicap van up and they still go shopping at Costco in a scooter. You know what I mean? Like, what percentage of people? Now, look, if you're freaked about COVID, fuck off. That's on you. There's something wrong with you. And by the way, anyone who's freaked out about COVID, I don't want voting.
Well,
something's wrong with your brain.
But if you think about it, all the like plastic partitions and everything that we did, it's a voting booth. Voting in and of itself is a solitary activity. They don't let you stand that close to somebody anyway because you don't want to be looking over their shoulder or whatever. So it's got the social distance part of it built into it. And then, of course, there's the irony, too, that, you know, no food online or whatever. And then you take your I voted sticker and you get free Krispy Kreme.
Right. Yeah. Carb load after you vote. No, it doesn't sound dangerous to me that trucks can't drive by and rehydrate and feed you while you're waiting in line. It's a thing. You kind of find out where the closest place to your house is, the church or the old couple with the garage they've opened up or whatever it is. It seems to take schools, you know, many different forms. But have ID, make it one fucking day, and that shall be that. I don't want everyone getting a mail-in ballot. And look, you can say, well, this is accurate, or how do you know there's voter fraud, or how do you know X, or how do you know Y? The answer is, I don't know. The more drop boxes and the more harvesting and the more door-to-door getting people to vote, the bigger you open it up for fraud. That's all I'm not saying. Not having a wall or fence at the border saying that it creates more fentanyl and more people coming across the border. I'm saying it gives you an opportunity to do that. My thing is have Tuesday. We've had it for a million years. You can vote. If you want to carve out some weird provision where, it's a national holiday and everyone gets 2 hours off of work to vote. Everyone can vote on the boss's dime. You have to come into work, but here you have a 2-hour allotment to use how you will to vote or whatever it is. But it's one day, you show ID and you show up. Now, as far as like voter fraud goes, the biggest fraud is the news outlets. That's kind of where you could say, and I'm not the first person to say it, but if you really think about it, Trump's got his panties in a bunch and he's saying, there's mules and they dropped this and they did that in Arizona or wherever. And you can wring your hands about that, or you can try to figure out whether that happened or didn't happen, or whatever the voting machines, whatever the conspiracy theory is. What is not a conspiracy theory is Joe Biden was a doddering piece of old shit whose son is a crazy drug addict criminal who's cutting deals with the worst players on the planet, China and Ukraine and Russia, and kicking money down you, Joe Biden. And every major news outlet said that computer was fake Russian propaganda. That swing an election. You get 51 former CIA and FBI and security specialists and analysts come out and say the computer is fake and has all the earmarks propaganda without examining anything. And then CNN, you explain this is a hoax, and that's how you swing an election. What happened to that computer, Mike? Anything with that? The turnout? Chris, check CNN and let's see if that thing was real or not. Boy, it's hard to tell these days. It's so funny because I was laughing with Drew about it, and Drew's like, how come nobody reports on the laptop, all the fucking horrible shit that's on there now? And people go, oh, they're covering Joe Biden. Oh, they're covering Biden. They're not covering for Hunter Biden. They're not covering for Joe Biden. They're covering for themselves.
Yes.
CNN said it was a hoax and laughable. And now CNN has 700 images and recordings and emails that completely go up against whatever they said it was, a year and a half ago. And so they're covering for themselves by not reporting it because they look like a second-rate news organization. And so does USA Today, and so do the 51 security experts, and so does the Los Angeles Times and the New York Times, MSNBC. They all aren't reporting on it now, not to cover Joe Biden, to cover them.
Right. No, the mass media has no reverse gear in their car. I was thinking about this with the abduction vans that were happening in Portland during the George Floyd riots. It's like, they're taking up people and they're throwing them in unmarked vans. Like, well, those people have had to have shown up by now. If they were still missing, I think we would be hearing about it.
Those border guys on horses were whipping those Haitian migrants. Yeah. Want to follow up, CNN? Because now they got news and they've been cleared. So that should be at the top of the news hour, right? Except for it's not. It's crazy. Right. It's a crazy time we're living in. But so to me, the election was more about the mainstream media protecting a guy who was completely unqualified to run a country. I think history has proven that in a short 18 months, versus stuffing ballot boxes, which could have happened as well. But the real swing of the election was Hunter's laptop and many other of those types of pieces of information that could have been shared, but weren't.
So why don't we move to something a little lighter? Dresden from Santa Barbara. What do you think of the new Top Gun movie? And if you had to be one character, who would you be?
Interesting that we're talking about air battle, because wasn't Dresden bombed in World War II? And then why would you name your son after a German town that was firebombed famously? And anybody have a younger brother, Nagasaki and Hiroshima? What other famous bombed out World War II places can we talk about? All right, what they want to know?
Did you like the new Top Gun movie, and what character would you be?
Well, I would have to convince. Trying to think. I'd go with the plucky Latina chick. I don't know if she was a Latina chick, but she seemed pretty plucky and Latina to me. Had her together, took no gruff. Also, I feel like I may be transitioning, and was on the final bombing run there on a very fun film. So,
and then
whatever
you could proceed everything. You could proceed everything with as a woman of color, and get away with a lot more.
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bruce from Jamestown, Tennessee. Love your Adam Carolla Show logo. I wear the white cap when driving my Speedster. Were you inspired by the great Brumos Racing Team livery?
Oh, a deep cut with Brumos. So everyone kind of thinks about it BMW M badge and the colors of an M series car. If you, not the car, badging on a BMW M series. But there's other variant car company called Porsche. I don't know if they're Bavarian or not. They're German. And Brumos was the name of the dealership that was brought out here in Florida. And Peter Gregg, known as Peter Perfect, was the guy behind Brumos. And Brumos was this cool white car with that sort of off blue and sort of red, orange, red, interesting shades of red and blue. And we're looking at a new Brumos Porsche Chris has pulled up, but you can find ones from the 70s, early 80s that are more interesting. So it does kind of have the same vibe as Brumos, although everyone connects it to MM. And then Peter Gregg, who I talked about on this show before, famously was such a winning, dominant driver of the 70s and 80s that he was labeled Peter Perfect. He just won a huge amount of races. Maybe he won the 24 hours a Daytona 3 or 4 times or something. And he was driving in France before Le Mans, and probably in, I don't know, 80, 82, 83 or something like that. He's driving with he won the 24 hours of Daytona 4 times, which is pretty dominant. And he was driving with that Frank Stella, the artist who made a BMW art car, like Andy Warhol did an art car with BMW, and so now it goes from Brumos to BMW, and that Frank Stella is still alive. Actually, made the M1 Pro car, Frank Stella art car at Peter Gregg's request. And they got in a car accident, a road going accident, just, on the highway kind of thing. And Frank Stella was in the car with him, and Brumos Peter Gregg got the worst of it. And he bonked his head, and he had like double vision, and he couldn't run Le Mans, and he was having difficulty. And all of a sudden, he slowed down just a tick, and he wasn't winning like he was. And when he was 40, he killed himself. Just went to like a beach in Florida and just put a bullet. It's kind of crazy. That guy's story, I always think about that guy. It's just a crazy story. Good looking race car driver thing, had this big Brumos. Brumos was a really dominant Porsche racing team in the 70s and the 80s. It's, big dealership and everything, and just couldn't win. Like he used to win. He was so used to winning, and he just killed himself.
Wow.
Yeah. Where's a Brumos? Yeah. Find me a Brumos 935. That'll probably do it for you. Anyway.
Reminding me of a question in the book about what you would do a deep dive podcast on. This could be a second one, but you had answered that it was going to be the James Dean story. But you'll get to read about that in the book.
Yeah.
So there's somebody named Steve who perhaps you've met before, says, "Come on by the Bunny Museum. We have moved and are 10 times bigger." Says Steve the husband. Have you visited the Bunny Museum? I feel like that was a man. You have not.
I have, Michael. I have. The Bunny Museum. Was there a Brumos 935? It's driving me nuts now.
The Facebook view can't see it. So that's.
Mike wants to see it. God damn it!
I don't even know if Mike can't see it either.
I want to see it. Yeah, look at that Brumos. That's a twin turbo. Yeah. All right. Anyway, go on, get the shit. People can't see it, Chris, so let's not waste time.
Sorry.
The Bunny Museum. I was doing a bit for Too Late or some
Oh, that's what it
show
was.
that I was doing, and I would go out in the day and shoot some roll-in pieces. And a guy had a big Charles, fan with the lunch pails and the action figures and everything. And the Bunny Museum was like in Altadena, California, or deeper that in California, like Arcadia or something like that. And it was just this kooky husband-wife team that had, just a regular, ranch style 1,200 square foot house. And inside of it was 2,000 ceramic bunnies and, a cage in the back with some bunnies. And it was just, bunny throw pill.
Sure.
About the whatever museum, it'd be like if I said, I have a office-sized business trash can museum. And then you went, oh, what's this about? And then you open my door and it filled trash can. And then, oh, yeah. Ding. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
kind of what the Bunny Museum is. It's just a house with crazy people in it filled with stuffed bunnies, bunny slippers, and a bunny coffee mug and bunny shit.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you think, but it's a little sadder when you get there.
Yeah, it's a fine line between OCD and museum curator. And it
Right.
occurs to me too, a pretty good rich man, poor man, your house is a museum.
Yes. It's also essentially, there's a very fine line, because if you just collect everything, you're a hoarder. But if you collect hippopotamus curator of your museum, but you're still just a hoarder. You picked one lane.
You're a
You
narrow-minded hoarder.
You hoard one thing. You're a hoarder who lacks range.
You're a lazy hoarder.
Yes. Or a focused hoarder.
That's
I
true.
don't
Yeah, it could
know, but you essentially hoard one thing. That whether this particular thing, it's Charlie's Angels junk filling up your West Side apartment, or bunny shit in your Arcadia 1,200 square foot house, but you're focused hoarder.
be. Yeah, so
And
message to
hoarders are as low as we have on the food chain. The next to pedophile is what we have as a society, but yet the focused hoarders are celebrated.
Deep, real deep.
I hoard Paul Newman race cars.
Well, you know what you could hoard if you went to premiercollectibles.com/everything. You could order some. You could order some.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. Some signed copies of Adam's new book, which comes out next week.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, I've been around you long enough to get semi-professional here. So Abigail from Texas doesn't know you very well, because she asks, how does your faith impact the way you live and work?
Well, I don't have a traditional faith, but I do have a kind of faith in move forward, time passes quickly, things get done. And that's kind of my faith, writing a book, recording an audiobook. I'm always so philosophically interested with the process of the audiobook, for instance. It's always a huge pile of papers, 250, 300, whatever it is. It seems so monumental. You break it down into these 30-page sessions. Dawson and I did 3.5 pages the other day, just because we had 25 minutes in between. I finished my show. Jesse Waters' van was across the street for a hit. I had like 25 minutes before getting into makeup and getting seated in the van, and I was like, let's knock off 5 pages. I'm not good enough, so we got to like 3.5. But that's the process. Is the process right there, man, and it's the most important process in life. The most important process in life is, hey, Mike, we should write another book. What should we make this book about? To here we are, and I'm signing book plates. And repeat that process and do it with many endeavors. You know, it doesn't all have to be work related. For instance, it can be a treehouse, but for your kids or whatever, going to Greece and hiking, whatever that thing is. Like, hey, I have an idea. I'd like to ride a zip line in Maui. Oh, okay. 2 on the zip line in Maui, to the cable snapping and you falling to your death. Beginning, middle, end.
Sure. Big end. Yeah.
Big end.
No, it is a broad. We've got 251 pages in this book. That's a hell of a lot of work, and that's a hell of a lot of reading for you. And I've been listening to the audio book that Dawson's producing exquisitely, and it's great. So if you want to get that version of it, you can get that too. And if you want to get that and the regular book, get both. Why not?
Yeah.
Have one in the car and have one on the shelf.
Yeah.
So Mackenzie from Portland wonders, what does an ideal day look like for you?
I've had a few of these lately. Just a few, but honestly, for me, I kind of I have 3. There's 3. There's one. They all involve nothing to do that day, but it doesn't mean I'm getting my bathrobe. It just means there's no commitments. There's no time. There's no you must be here by then kind of thing. It'll inevitably or should inevitably involve a long walk of some kind and a nice conversation with someone I enjoy talking on the phone or in person on the walk. It'll involve going out for like a steak and a martini at the end of that day. And for me, and you know, maybe you get a little bit older and you get a little bit nostalgic or something. I have found myself, if I do have that day, sitting alone in my warehouse with the Sonos on, put on the 80s channel and crack an IPA, put it in a frosty mug, and just sort of walk around and just sort of look at the cars. And I kind of think about the history of a lot of them and where they've been. I see the names on the sides of the car and go, is that guy? You know, Paul Newman, he's not here anymore. And Ralph Stumlin, he died 1903 at Riverside in a car like this car. And then I see, oh, there's Dick Barber's name. Oh, he's still alive. He's in Florida. Funny guy, you know. And I'll kind of surround a little plaque on the wall or something, or some old picture of, you know, me and Hugh Hefner from the Playboy Mansion from the KLSX days that's up on the wall, and just kind of nurse beer and like look at it and listen to Kaja Gugu in the background. And just, you know, 2 hours just goes by in like a just a blink of an eye. And I'll have these little, like, moments, and sometimes, and I'll pull like one of the books for one of the old cars, and I'll go, oh yeah, Newman at Lime Rock in 1987. He you know, put the car in pole position, but didn't finish the race because there was a mechanical issue or something like that. And I'll go, he was probably disappointed that he put the car on pole and then something broke on the car. And I'll just sort of look at the old pictures and stuff. It's just a weird kind of have a beer, walk around, weird music that I don't even necessarily even like. It just kind of reminds me of this other time period, and just sort of reminisce, no agenda or schedule.
And your kids, of course, your kids.
Oh yeah, I love the kids. That's my number one
It goes
role.
without saying. Yeah.
No, the reality with the kids is I would be more than happy to bring the kids with me. It wouldn't take 8 minutes of that shit. It would be like, I'm bored. I want to go. Like Natalia wouldn't go there in the first place. And Sonny, after being in the shop for 10 minutes, would announce that he wants to talk to Baskin Robbins and be back in an hour. So that's how that would play out.
So Meredith in Arkansas wants to know, in social circles, how do you get along with friends who think differently than you?
Well, I think most people think differently than me. I guess she's talking about politically, but I feel like, well, I shouldn't say most socially, but fair amount do politically, for sure. You focus on why you're friends with the person. You're not friends over. I'm not friends with somebody I didn't meet because I hated Nancy Pelosi and he loved Nancy Pelosi and we met at some sort of encounter group or something. We were friends because we like to laugh. We have a sense of humor. We're both smart, sort of appreciate each other's takes and sense of humor, and we love watching football, and we love Woody Allen movies, and we love going out to eat, and and the aforementioned steak and martini. That the stuff you disagree with or about is pretty small compared to what brought you together. So, I tend to just think about that. I had dinner the other day with Jimmy and Dr. Drew and Mark Garagos, and Danny Two Sheets was there, and it was fresh off of Jimmy's interview with Biden. And, Jimmy's on one side and Drew's on the other side, and Danny Two Sheets is the other side, and I'm on the other side, and like Mark Garagos is circling around the middle somewhere, darting from side to side, and we all just had drinks and ate. There wasn't. We enjoyed ourselves. I don't know. I think people are overcomplicating a lot of this shit. I don't like. I like the Rams. I'm not a big. I like the Rams. I invite. I'm trying to kind of think of the crew that comes over to watch football on Sunday. You got Ed, he's a big Tennessee Titans guy. You got, Damashek occasionally, he's a big Steelers guy. He doesn't like to talk about it, but if you give him a couple of beers, you'll get it out of him. There's Nick Santora's a Giants guy, Kevin Hench, Patriots guy. We have Cousin Sal's a Cowboys guy inexplicably. Brad is a Giants guy. I'm the Rams guy as far as I can tell in this entire equation. So I'm hosting everyone to come over and drink my beers and eat my chips. And there's only one Rams fan in the group, and that's me, and that's fine. I mean, we don't have to try to figure out who's better through some sort of verbal jousting match. It's the Rams are playing and your team's playing, and we'll hang out.
Because you haven't decided that Cowboy fans or Steeler fans are evil for being
yes,
there, and so
not,
you don't have to try to kill them.
Yes, you're not. All Pittsburgh fans are racist and hate women and misogynists and whatever. Yes, you remove that of it, then you're just fans and you can root for your team.
Right. Okay, getting close to the end here, so a couple more. What is the hardest lesson? Oh, sorry, Cody from Chicago. What's been the hardest lesson but became the most useful tool in your life?
I'd say the most useful tool is probably the crescent wrench because it's adjustable. You could do 10 millimeter or 5/8, just depending on the slide of the adjustment wheel. The best lesson, the cruelest lesson. I guess sometimes I had a therapist tell me once a long time ago. Just sometimes the answer is no, and that's that. There's just no working around it, no figuring it out, no solving it. It's just no is the answer. And so while most people, it's a virtue to not take no for an answer, I will frequently take no for an answer and move on. So it's also kind of knowing when to hack and leave when you hear no, or where to go. So we had our last book we wrote. I was told no by a couple of publishers, New York, Manhattan publisher types, said no. And when the Post Hill folks, some from Post Hill or something, I can't remember how it went down, but we had a guest, and he was an author, and he
Coach
wrote
Mike.
a motivational book. Was it Coach Mike?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Something sounds right and a little at the same time, but I trust you on these things,
Yeah.
Coach Mike. So I said, we were leaving. He was like, "You're an interesting guy. Why don't you write a book?" I was like, "Well, we have no luck, And then I said, "Who's your publisher?" And they said, "Post Hill." And I said, I could talk to those guys and see if they wanted to whatever. And here we are. So the point is sometimes no means turn the page and move on, and sometimes no means find somebody else so you can make a page to turn.
Wow.
Powerful.
Awesome. Yeah, that is.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a question that I thought would be fun for the audience to hear because it's a question that was teed up for the book that we didn't answer because of the context. We actually got a question from Alec Baldwin at one point, but decided given what was going on that might not be the best to answer it at that time. Let's say you wake up in the morning and you hate everyone and everything. What do you do? Seemed like probably not the best time to answer that question for Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah. I think, my feeling is, well, I'll liken it to COVID. If you're in a bad way, steer clear if you can of people. Sort of people. They're gonna get fragged. You know what I mean? If you just wake up and you're in really shit mood and not to spend too much in the kitchen talking to whomever, because something's coming out of you at them at some point. It's hard to completely keep that under wraps. So I would say kind of walk it off. I would say get up and hit the road, like go walk for 45 minutes, get yourself cleaned out and come back. I don't think, it's like kind of like being drunk alone versus drunk at a party. You know what I mean? You can be drunk alone and no harm, no foul, or you can get drunk at a party and go around and kind of make an ass of yourself, So maybe look at being in a really shit mood, like being really hammered, and maybe that plan is just to go in the office and shut the door and not have people tell you a bunch of stories the next day about how wrecked you were or what a douche you were. You know what I mean?
All right,
now, if we're going to put it in the, if that was Baldwin's question, we're going to put it in the book. We would have put together a more interesting, fascinating, articulate, interesting, cogent, and humorous answer than that. Go ahead.
So Hannah from Arizona, what's your biggest takeaway from writing this book?
Besides the advance, I would say, um, it's one more thing that you could do that I didn't really know I could do or we could do before we did it. The notion of you go, let's write another book, and then you go, geez, what can't I complain about, or what can I complain about that I haven't already in so many pages of books? By the time we get to this book, we're 1,800 pages worth of complaining. What subject couldn't I have addressed, and what topic didn't we hit 5 times already? And Mike said, what if we took questions from people and kind of had them drive the content? And then, I kind of remember where I was. I think I was walking around my neighborhood, and Mike brought it up. And I was like, I was either in my car driving in my neighborhood, or I was walking through my neighborhood. I kind of remember where I was, and I went, question in the audience, submitted questions, celebrity questions, and I went, that's interesting. I wonder if I could pull that off. I wonder if we could pull that off. How would that be? How entertaining, funny, provocative? How would this be a good book? And so what I get from these different experiences is, like, I know I could make a cheese omelet, but I'm not sure that I could make pheasant under glass, and, making another cheese omelet is fine, but you don't really have that same sense of accomplishment that when you go, I'm going to make this that I've never even contemplated making before, and you bite into it and it's pretty damn good. That's kind of that takeaway. That's that sense of accomplishment.
Excellent. Well, that kind of brings us to a close, and you're absolutely right. This book is my analogy for it is it's home run derby. It's just good fat pitches down the middle and seeing how many you can hit out of the park. And I think you did that to kiss your ass a little bit, and I think the fans will really enjoy it. Those who are longtime fans and those who are newer to you. So again, for those streaming right now, premiercollectibles.com/everything to get your autographed copy. And if you're hearing this on the podcast afterwards, go to adamcarolla.com, click the banner, and get it through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, through IndieBound if you want to go through a more independent route. But just get the book, get it early, and throw to Adam to say goodbye.
Well, once again, all hail the Mikes, really. I mean, Mike August really came through with the writing of this book. And then, of course,
he did?
Mike Lynch is reading the drop thing. Mike Lynch with the writing, and then Mike Dawson with the recording and engineering of the audiobook was just couldn't have done it without you. And you can go to adamcarolla.com and click on the banner and pre-order it. This Friday and Saturday, going to be in Springfield doing stand-up and live pods there, July 15th and 16th. And you just go to adamcarolla.com for all the live shows coming up and pre-order that book because it just helps. And until next time, this is Adam Carolla for Mike Lynch saying mahalo. Thanks.
Hey, this is John Acuff, New York Times best-selling author of 7 books and someone who's done a live signing. If you like the one you just watched, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. It's full of amazing authors having great conversations and signing books for viewers just like you. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching today.